Hello, and welcome to the next installment of A View into the Collection. Thank you for joining me. My name is Amy, and I am the curator of collections here at the Indian Pueblo Cultural Center. My monthly View into the Collection segments afford me an opportunity to select works of art from our permanent collection to share with you. This month's theme of love and compassion are two prominent tenets in the Pueblo world. As I searched through cabinets, art racks, and drawers, I was pleased and surprised to find that we had a variety of works on paper highlighting the loving bonds between mothers and their children and the grandparents with their grandchildren. Also tucked inside a drawer was a watercolor painting of a dog walking toward her puppies, which were in a puppy pile next to an outdoor bread oven called an Orno. This watercolor is signed by the artist and is titled Taos Pueblo. In my research, I found that the artist Eve Pecanino was from Sacramento, California, and lived to be 95 years old. Her special interests were watercolor painting and travel, especially to Italy. I wondered when she would have visited New Mexico and the Pueblo of Taos, and how this particular scene made an impression on her that she painted this sweet memory. And I thought it fit in nicely with the theme of mamas and babies. So to the next few works on paper of mothers with their children. This watercolor on paper of a mother looking lovingly at her infant is by a Cochiti Pueblo artist named Andrew Asona. I love all of the little elements painted into this scene. The water jar with the gourd dipper, which is painted with the Avanu serpent, the Cochiti drum, the warm fireplace behind the mother, the feathered and rainbowed staff arching over them, and the two deer facing to the right, as if hinting at a long and fruitful life for the baby. Andrew Asana titled his painting Beginning. And in my research, I found that Andrew Asana, who was born in 1930 and was a medicine man, father, farmer, and veteran of the Korean conflict, I just couldn't find a lot of information about his family. And I wondered if he was indeed the person who painted this watercolor, or if it was his son or another family member. In any case, Asona appears to have lived a rich and prolific life. He served in the Navy as a seaman first class and went through 2 typhoons, which sounds scary, and was part of the motion picture The Cane Mutiny. In his youth, he sang in the Santa Fe Indian School Choir and was cast in a theater troupe that performed in venues from Alaska to Dartmouth College to the Smithsonian. A documentary film has been made of his life, and he was featured in a book titled A Place Like No Other, People of an Enchanted Land by Darrell A. Black. Darrell took this photo of Asuna in 1996. So the next piece I chose is a black and white photo of an unidentified mother with her child on her back. I found that the smiling mother and crying baby was a sweet moment captured by photographer T. Harmon Parkhurst. And the photo is dated about 1925 to 1945. This photo was taken at Santa Clara Pueblo. The photo and the negative can be found in the Palace of the Governor's photo archives in Santa Fe. This print was donated to the Cultural Center in 2001 by Joan Rousseau Wright in memory of Frances Russell. So the next mother with her child on her back is a watercolor on paper, which is untitled. As I researched this work, I found notation that it was found in the collection in 1987. And the artwork was attributed to Cochiti artist Joe H. Herrera, who was Tonita Peña's son. Tonita was a very well-known and very talented Pueblo painter herself, and she was from San Ildefonso Pueblo. I'm not entirely convinced this is a Joe Herrera painting due to some details I compared to some of Herrera's other works in books and online. He usually painted his subjects in what was known as the Santa Fe Indian school style of flat dimension, no ground plane, and no background or sky scenes. However, in this painting, the mother with child are set amongst a tree, rocks, birds, and a dog, giving it an entirely different dimension and setting. Also, the details of on her face and the baby's face and the hands do not match his other works. And another reason I'm unsure this is a Joe Herrera work is that the painting is unsigned. The only clue that can be found on the back is on the back of the painting, signed in ballpoint pen to Judy and Chris, NM, and the name Joe. But the name Joe is written in cursive letters. And when I looked at how Joe Herrera signs his names on his works, it's usually written in a blocky print style with the initials JH followed by his last name, Herrera. And underneath that, he would write his Cochiti name. So I hope someday I can solve this particular mystery and figure out who the actual artist is, or if it is in fact Joe Herrera. And on to this next piece, which is a set by Howard Raniere, who is Taos Pueblo and Creek. He photographed Eliza Romero and her grandson sitting on a ladder at the Pueblo of Taos. The image feels warm and pure, as if there is no safer and comforting place to be than in the lap of your loving grandma. The poem that accompanies the warm-hearted image speaks of a grandparent's love whose spirit swells to call you grandson, as is mentioned at the end of the poem. Howard Raniere is an accomplished teacher, motivational speaker, photographer, and poet. Finally, this last work on paper is by Charles F. Lovato of Santo Domingo, Pueblo. It is a lithograph entitled Fertility. I find it a very powerful piece that gives one hope of continuance and survival, as well as the joining of a young couple embarking on the extraordinary journey of parenthood. What can represent love and compassion more than that? Lovato became a painter of abstract subjects, a muralist, illustrator, poet, and craftsman. His paintings and prints were unique and full of abstract figures, fine lines, smooth curves, and earthy tones. In 1982, he published a book of poems titled Life Under the Sun through Sunstone Press in Santa Fe. We do have this particular book in our library. He served in the Navy, studied art under Jemez Pueblo artist Jose Ray Toledo. And after 1967, many of his paintings and prints were accompanied by one of his poems. He explained that sometimes the poem came first and sometimes were written in response to the painting. So this concludes my segment of a view into the collection. And I really appreciate the time you take to watch and listen. And I hope you enjoyed this as much as I enjoyed choosing each of these works. Join me for my next segment in March the 27th. I will focus on our past honorees for National Women's History Month with photographs and informational tidbits. Thank you.